Welcome to Riding with Dielawn. I am a comedian and pop music encyclopedia, here to share with you my unique insights on the world of today's pop music and pop culture. I'll discuss what's hot, what's not, and what's a flop. So thanks for joining me for today's Riding with Dielawn. Connect with me on Facebook and Twitter at Dielawn Comedy and Instagram at Real Dielawn. That's Dielawn. And hit up my YouTube channel, Dielawn Comedy. And be sure to subscribe to my podcast on iTunes and Stitcher by searching Ridin' with Dielawn, RIDIN with DIELAWN. Don't forget about my website where you can hear all my shows, ridinwithdielawn.com. Riding with Dielawn airs every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. here on News Talk WLOB 1310 and streams on my website, ridinwithdielawn.com. Welcome back to Riding with Dielawn. It's a very special day here on Riding with Dielawn. I've got my first celebrity guest, and my first guest at all. But my first one, it had to be a celebrity. So I'm glad I waited for this. This is a guy who, if you Google this guy on Google Images, you see him. Like, he's legit right here. He's the former statewide director of the largest PAC in Texas. He writes for American Thinker and WorldNet Daily, and is featured on a number of radio and television programs. His name is John Griffin. How's it going?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me on the show.
Now, John Griffin here, he is conservative. You're how would you describe your...
I definitely lean more conservative. I think that's where most of the country's heading right now.
There we go. Okay, so I have got my first question. All right, I have just been steaming and, I can't get off of this Chris Matthews, Donald Trump town hall. It was just outrageous. Okay, first off, what were your initial thoughts of it?
Well, basically, I think that it's an example of typical liberal ambush journalism. That's where they go in, and they try to essentially ask entrapment questions like, have you stopped beating your wife yet? Yes or no, you're going to have a problem.
Okay, did you see, now I know everybody is focused on the whole abortion discussion that they had, but did you see the guy right after the abortion discussion? Did you see what he asked?
I did see that, and I thought his answer was very good. It was measured, it was balanced.
And that was such an entrapping question, right? Because they already, I thought we went through this, people. I thought we already decided, right?
Well, Trump thought we decided, too. His answer was pretty good. It was, hey, the courts have decided. I'll go by the law. I thought that was good.
Yeah, and then he was probably sitting there, I feel like, oh my gosh, please let that be it. And then the guy continued and he asked about even more hot topic of an issue, the transgender thing. He asked, what will you do to increase the equality rights for transgender individuals?
Well, and the fact is that's another example of liberal ambush journalism, because this had no real relevance in a national sense. The transgender issue has had some local issues recently with Houston and a few ordinances, but beyond that, the bathroom ordinances where, men who say they're women can just go into any bathroom they want.
Why don't we just make all bathrooms gender neutral? Seriously.
Most businesses are doing that, but businesses shouldn't have to do that.
No,
They shouldn't have to do that. Bottom line is, Trump recognized that was not a serious issue and that the law is the law, and whatever that is, as president, he'll enforce it. And that's where we need to look.
Now, do you think that this individual here, I'm assuming that he was gay, I don't know, but do you think he was trying to really put Trump in a horrible situation by asking that? Because I'm pretty sure the guy knows Donald Trump is not going to do anything to increase the equality for transgender communities, but he just said it the way he phrased it, was like, what will you do?
Well, the latest data is that very few people in the gay community actually support Trump, and that could have been deduced or guessed.
I don't think we needed data for that. Did they really pay to do a study about it?
They did. They paid to do a study on a lot of things. Federal dollars are really funny that way. But Donald Trump actually doesn't really have to address this issue because the courts and the law are doing it for him. So I definitely think this was an example of a question that was designed to attack and not a question that was designed to level the playing field and get us all talking.
Now, after watching the whole town hall, and if you guys haven't seen it, it's all on YouTube. You just Google Donald Trump town hall, pops right up. But after Donald Trump answered the question about transgender equality really quickly, I'm really shocked Chris Matthews didn't keep pushing it and make the discussion continue. And I feel like Donald Trump was sitting there thank freaking Jesus they didn't make me talk about transgender rights, because I mean that is such a hot topic issue right now, and that's the one group I haven't heard any run-ins or controversies with Donald Trump.
That really was funny to me because Chris Matthews is the master of going for the short hairs on things like that. And I mean, this is a man who said, I get tingles up my leg whenever Obama speaks. So he's not exactly a bastion of balanced journalism. Chris Matthews really missed the boat on that one.
Yeah. Now, it's kind of interesting. You do a lot of political advising and you work in politics, seriously in politics. I work in talking, funny stuff about politics. You're really out there. So how do you think the GOP party could, is it possible that they could win over LGBT people?
Absolutely. I think it's impossible not to at some point, because LGBT people typically like money and they like keeping more of it. And my gay friends, certainly, and I know we all have some gay friends or family, these are people who are industrious, they work hard, and they want to keep what they make. That's something that really appeals to everybody. When you have Bernie Sanders out there saying, let's take 90% of taxes from people who make money and who create jobs, that's not something that really makes anyone happy about the future.
Now, how do you think the Republican Party, though, could ever get gay people, or is the right way to say it LGBT people? That sounds weird. Is it LGBT? What's the word?
It kind of changes a lot, frankly. I think the last time I checked to see what it was probably LGBT, but who knows, right?
The LGBT community, that's probably the most politically correct way to say it, right? What could the Republican Party do that they're not doing now to include LGBT, to be more LGBT friendly?
Well, the main thing is we don't have to all agree in a party on every single issue. The Democrats know that, and we used to know that. Back when Ronald Reagan was president, we let anybody in that wanted us to win, and we let them be a brand or a version or a branch of the Republican Party. Nowadays, we're so upset when anyone doesn't parrot the party line. And whatever the party line is this year includes very hostile language towards the gay community. I think we're making a mistake when we tell $100 billion and a pretty sizable number of voters to take a walk. I think we need to let everybody walk right in to the GOP and vote for Donald Trump.
I got a question about Donald Trump's endorsements. So far, who are all the big people that have endorsed him? You got Sarah Palin, Ben Carson, who else? Chris Christie, right?
I believe Chris Christie, yeah. He was kind of unhappy about having to do that.
Wait, what do you mean?
Did you see the video? I mean, Chris Christie looked like he was in pain. He was sitting behind Donald Trump scowling the whole time he was announcing it.
Like he had a gun to his head type thing? Didn't want to do it?
Probably so, but mainly I just think anything's better than the alternatives right now.
Man, I have my fingers crossed on a Chris Christie vice presidency. Are you telling me you don't think that's happening?
Chris Christie hugged Obama. That was never going to happen.
Oh, okay. Who do you think helped? Do you think Sarah Palin helped Donald Trump's endorsement? I saw her endorsement, and then I saw the SNL parody with Tina Fey. It was not a parody. It was which video is which?
Sadly, I think Sarah Palin writes the scripts to all Tina Fey's impersonations ever, because there's really not a difference, man. It's kind of scary that someone like that even gets to speak for the Republican Party.
But I don't remember, was she that cartoonish and over the top in 2008? Was she always like that, Sarah Palin-ish?
Well, she didn't get to speak that much in 2008, but when she did, I think it was pretty bad. If you recall the Katie Couric interview, that was that year. That was the election years. So she's always had a problem with words.
Yeah. She seems like she's amped it up a little, though. It's like she took it from 10 to 11.
someone might have told her to be even more folksy and uneducated. I don't know.
Folksy, yes, that is the word. Like that. What was the thing she said? Like, you pro bowlers and holy rollers pushing a stroller. Or, oh man. Okay, so do you think her endorsement helped Donald Trump, or did that just like everybody that was already liking Donald Trump helped, and then everybody who doesn't like Donald Trump, it just pushed him away more?
No, I think it was largely insignificant. I think Donald Trump's Teflon, nothing sticks. So I don't think it hurt or helped Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump helps himself.
Okay, all right. Now, who would you say, like, of all the endorsements actually might have helped Donald Trump? Like Ben Carson?
I don't think Donald Trump's endorsement value is really that significant. He doesn't need endorsements. He's a brand already. He has TV shows. He's been in the public eye for over 30 years. Donald Trump doesn't need endorsements, so it helps, hurts. I don't know if it really does either.
John, are you more hawkish than Hillary Clinton or less hawkish? That's a joke from the Chris Matthews town hall. He asked Donald Trump if he's more hawkish than Hillary Clinton or less hawkish. And he really did it like out of nowhere. Like, he was answering a different question mid-sentence. He's like, are you more hawkish than Hillary Clinton or less hawkish?
That's like me asking you if you're more funny or less funny. I mean, that was a trap question for Trump. And frankly, everyone, come on, man.
I had to look up, by the way, hawkish. It means like really willing to like start wars, right? I guess it's like a political word. But yeah, I mean, obviously Donald Trump knows that he's more. Everybody in the room knows the answer is more. And so he phrased it, are you more hawkish or less hawkish than Hillary Clinton? And then he said, I would say I'm more intelligent than Hillary Clinton.
Well, I got to tell you, this is a woman, Hillary Clinton, who wants to be woken up at 3 a.m., and she's kind of past her prime. So, frankly, menopause, 3 a.m., I don't want her anywhere near the red button.
All right, let's talk about millennials. First off, I'm considered a millennial, right? I'm still considered a millennial?
Yes, you are.
Okay, for sure. I was just making sure before we go any further. Yeah, millennials, why do you think that they view Bernie Sanders as so cool? I have my own theories, my own opinions, but I want to get your take.
Well, look, when you spend your whole life playing Xbox in the basement and mommy brings you your dinner, then you really like the idea of free stuff.
Okay. For real, though, give me like your professional political opinion if you had to say.
Well, number one, the economy that these kids grew up in was bad. It was the worst economy since the Great Depression for new job seekers, for people who are just trying to find their first job. And, a lot of them are going back to college because there's simply nothing there. So college pays you more than a first job would. And that's really tragic, but it's the result of the policies of this 8 years of Obama, and Trump will change that.
Now, why do you think millennials prefer Bernie, though, over Hillary Clinton? Like, why is Hillary Clinton so eternally uncool?
Well, mainly anything old and anything that seems establishment looks like the more of the cause of their lack of individual success and opportunity. And a lot of these kids have just given up on the idea of the free market and on capitalism. They don't have a problem with taxing, quote unquote, the rich at 90%. They think that's going to, because they don't understand how this economy is supposed to work and how it would have benefited them. Their whole lives have been spent under the wing of someone else who is paying their bills, and they don't know taxes. They don't know how it is, man. So the issue for millennials has always been about, in my mind, just the quickest way to getting food in their bellies, getting shelter, and eliminating the serious risk of not having a job. And free stuff does that.
See, I feel like that's a really good point. That's like a lot of SAT words. I'm really trying to process it all right now, TBH. I told you guys he was a profesh. I've got a real, I told you this guy was legit. But my feeling is that Barack Obama kind of stole Hillary Clinton's thunder with the whole first president who's not an old white guy thing. And now it's like nobody cares that Hillary Clinton is a woman. Like, if you asked most people my age, they don't care about the first woman president because we already had all the excitement of the first black president, and now it's like, okay, not as big of a deal.
Well, the first black president didn't work out too well, so people are starting to wake up to the idea of voting for labels just because they're labels. People are starting to vote for substance, and Hillary doesn't have any substance.
Oh, you don't think so?
No, this is a woman who practically looked the other way while her husband molested every underage intern in the White House. I don't think she really has any scruples.
I mean, she's not even a good role model for women, even. Like, she's not even a good, idea of a woman.
No, I mean, when Benghazi happened and she was proven to be associated with it and all these Americans died in one of our embassies, her response was, what difference does it make? So really, this is a woman who doesn't even have a bone of empathy in her, and that's kind of important if you're a woman.
Whew, okay. Well, after that, back to Donald Trump. I'm sorry, I'm just really obsessed with the whole Donald Trump thing. I mean, that's honestly why I'm even interested in politics. If this whole election was like the way that it is on the other side with Bernie and Hillary, like those two get along way too good for me to be interested. Boring. Right? So Donald Trump, he's had controversies with Spanish people. He insulted Spanish people. He's supposedly insulted women. He's supposedly unpopular with black people. I haven't heard any controversy with him and gay people. That's the one group. That's like the one shoe I'm waiting to drop. Is that the phrase? Do you think that if he had a controversy with like the LGBT community, because that is such issue that's so prevalent right now, that actually might be the one that does stick?
Well, honestly, I don't know how anything could stick, but if there was something that would stick, I think it might be that. And that is because people have become so emotionally radicalized by that issue. They have family members, sisters, brothers, cousins who are gay. And so they view it as a sensitive, emotionally personal topic, unlike sometimes things that seem further away from us and distant. And average folks, we don't encounter all the issues that they talk about on the national stage, but average folks have encountered that in their families.
That is, I feel like, the one thing that you absolutely can't diss. Like, it's the one group you are absolutely not allowed to say anything about right now, or you are crucified.
It's the only group that sues people more than Donald Trump.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, this group is a very litigious group, yes. And I said what I said, of course, being kidding around. But the fact is, gay people also are very conservative in many ways. And I think it really would help the Republican Party and the nation if we started giving everyone a seat at the table and everyone a voice if they want it.
Now, John here, you listen to, like me, a lot of talk radio. That's actually one of the things we bonded over. I'm a huge talk radio nerd. I swear, I'm not a nerd. Like, I'm really, really super cool, as you know. But the only thing I am nerdy about, I love talk radio. And you do too, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm on it right now, right?
Yeah, exactly. And art imitating life, right? Is that what that is? And so we were talking yesterday about how Rush Limbaugh is very hard to follow. Like, I'm surprised that he is the #1 talk radio show in the country, because every time I turn him on, he just delves so deep into the details of the issues, and it's like real hard, especially while I'm driving and I'm trying to figure out what this guy's talking about.
Well, I love Rush because I grew up around it, but you're right, man. The thing about Rush is he was first. He was first in the industry. He defined what later became talk radio for conservatives. And so Rush is always going to have a listener base that is more educated and that just is already paying attention. And we also need people who can break it down for folks, and I think you do that.
Yeah, so you're saying Rush Limbaugh's audience is like mostly much older people, like an 80-year-old who does nothing but listen to his talk radio all day, and they already know?
No, I mean, he has baby boomers, he has millennials that listen to, but no, his program is for those who are following the news point by point, blow by blow.
I wish Bill O'Reilly still did a radio show, because he is my fave in terms of that. Like, I can listen to him, and even if I don't agree, I know exactly what he's talking about. I feel like it's almost like politics for beginners.
Absolutely. Bill O'Reilly just tells it like it is, or at least the way he thinks it is. And I love or hate him, people like that. They like being able to immediately know what you're talking about.
Now, Bill O'Reilly's like the only guy I actually might vote for instead of Trump. I mean, other than that, my hashtag is nobody but Trump. Or do you think it should be always Trump? They need to figure out a hashtag, because it's like never Trump, anybody but Trump. Pick a hashtag and stay with it, people. Like, you know?
I think Trump's one of those few people who don't even need a hashtag. It seems like he can do anything. Yeah.
Now, I thought, John, my parents hated Obama, and then I met you. You take it to another level. Tell us your opinion on our President Barack Obama.
Well, in one word, I think he's a traitor. And the reason I think he's...
yeah, you can't stop there. You can't stop.
I'm sorry. I can't leave that dead space hanging. The reason he's a traitor is because he's disobeying the constitutional limits on his power, and it's making America less safe. I mean, he just told Border Patrol agents not to do their jobs and to let everyone in. Man, we have terrorist attacks almost every other day now. There's no excuse. When you jeopardize the lives of American citizens and you don't do your job as president, you're committing an act of treason against your people. And frankly, I think Obama's doing that, and he needs to be gone yesterday.
Okay, playing devil's advocate here, though. But we haven't had a terrorist attack in 8 years. He's kept us safe.
What about Fort Hood? I guess that was just workplace violence, even though the guy's emails were full of Al-Qaeda contacts. Or what about Benghazi? That was our U.S. embassy. We had no disruption there for the entire last 15 years before Obama. Suddenly he's president, he wants an Arab Spring, and stuff starts happening. So then we have San Bernardino. What was that about? People got injured. These were ISIS operatives. Oklahoma, someone did something in Oklahoma, claimed they were affiliated with ISIS. Bottom line is, man, I don't care what is claimed. The fact is, we are under attack, and we are in danger while this man sits in the Oval Office.
Okay, but didn't Barack Obama find and catch Osama bin Laden?
Well, frankly, reports are that Osama bin Laden might have been dead long before that attack. And for all the cinema and all of the PR, President Obama has done so little as president to fight terror, and this is the one time and place where he could actually have said to have done something. So, this looks to me like a bunch of PR, and I hope that we actually achieved that objective. But really, if we didn't get him in the last 8 years, the miracle of King Obama suddenly finding and killing Osama bin Laden seems a bit far-fetched.
So it could have actually been Bush, to thank for Obama, or for whatever his name is. I almost said Obama.
Well, I know one thing. We really didn't have another terrorist attack while Bush was president after 9/11. Obama's been president while several terrorist attacks have claimed American lives, and the record's clear.
All right. Well, it's very clear how you feel about Barack Obama. You probably hate even calling him the president, right?
I do hate calling him the president, mainly because I don't think he was eligible to be, and I don't think Ted Cruz is eligible either.
Oh, because he was born in, Canada?
Ted Cruz was born in Canada, but it's mainly the issue of did he have two American-born parents, and he did not. That's just the way the courts and the Constitution have been interpreted for hundreds of years. So Obama also demonstrably did not have the I's dotted and the T's crossed to be president, and we've looked the other way for 8 years.
So if you're born in Canada, you can't be president? Does that mean Justin Bieber could never be president?
Well, we had another president, sometime after the Civil War, I think, that was Canadian. But we don't typically make a habit of electing people who aren't Americans.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. That's all very, very interesting stuff right there. That's like a long ways to delve into. I don't really have that strong political beliefs on much. All I know is I want Donald Trump to be the next president. Now, I feel like a lot of his appeal is the fact that he really acts kind of like a quote-unquote a real man, when people say like how a guy is supposed to act, very old school and doesn't take anything from anybody, and it really has nothing to do with the issues. I feel like it's more his swag, honestly.
Well, look, all that aside, this is a state of emergency, and we need a guy like Trump who can get something accomplished and make America safe and make America great again, and I think he'll do that.
Right, I didn't mention John Griffin is actually also a Donald Trump supporter. Yeah, I thought I said that in his intro, but yeah.
Wasn't it obvious?
All right. Well, it's some interesting stuff. Hopefully we'll have you back again. If you want to find more about John Griffin, just type in John Griffin to YouTube, and it's Griffin like Griffin with a G on the end. That tripped me up. So it's not like the Irish Griffin, it's Griffing. So is that also Irish or what?
That's Welsh.
It's Welsh. Word. Okay. John Griffin is his name. John with an H, Griffin with a G. Thanks so much for being on Riding with Dielawn today.
Thanks for having me on.
You're Riding with Dielawn on Greater Portland's new FM 100.5 and WLOB AM 1310.
Hi, this is Derek Volk, host of The Derek Volk Show. I want to tell you about my book, Chasing the Rabbit, A Dad's Life Raising a Son on the Spectrum. My book is a rare and emotionally truthful story of my experiences as a father raising a son on the autism spectrum. When Dylan was 2 years old, my wife sat me down and said, "Something's not quite right with Dylan." My book takes you from birth to that day at age 2 until he was diagnosed with autism 6 years later, and then through his extremely rocky middle school years, his volatile high school life, and his challenging path to adulthood. The story has been called extremely raw and shockingly honest, and has been given 5 stars by every review on Amazon. Please go to our website, chasingtherabbit.org, to learn more about our story. That's chasingtherabbit.org.
Man Socks from manbrands.club is the best way to suit your feet. An elegant and functional sock for the sophisticated gentleman. Designed with cotton for warmth, polyester for durability, and spandex for comfort and breathability. The science behind Man Socks wicks away the sweat from your foot, which reduces moisture and awful odor. Man Socks allows you to be bold while also being scientifically functional. Attract women with elegance, keep them by smelling fresh. Get more from your socks and save money by visiting manbrands.club. That's manbrands.club.
You're Riding with Dielawn on Greater Portland's new FM 100.5 and WLOB AM 1310.
Yo, it's Dielawn. I am checking back in with you. Did you guys see the town hall with Donald Trump this week with Chris Matthews? If you didn't see the town hall, because I know a town hall is a debate that nobody watches, but I know you all have heard on the news that Donald Trump said, supposedly, women should be punished for having abortions. Yeah, every time you turn on the news this week, every time, I swear, this is me, I get in the car, turn on the dial, Donald Trump says women should be punished for having, I switch the station, saying women should be punished, switch the station again, for having abortions. Like, every station is talking nothing about his comments about abortions. I just want to start off, because we don't have much time and there's so much to talk about. So, first off, this interview was so, unprofessional of Chris Matthews, I thought. This reporter, I wasn't that familiar with him until I was like, who the hell is this guy? Like, he was being so unprofessional. He clearly, and after I researched him, he has clearly not liked Donald Trump at all and been wanting to come at him like this for a long time. They gave him the job of doing this town hall, I'm sure, because they knew that he was going to attack him the hardest of anybody, and it'd be great for ratings. And yeah, this was awesome television, but this was so unprofessional of him, the way that he is attacking Donald Trump the entire time. I mean, you guys saw, he's basically, this is like an interrogation. This is not a town hall. This is an interrogation. Like, they should have had like a police interrogation room setting, like the really dim lights hanging low, and like a table where they've got all the evidence spread out. Like, that is what this setting should have been, because that's what it felt like. Whether or not you like the guy, and you know that I am definitely going to be voting for Donald Trump. So let's get that out of the way. In case you're wondering, yes, I do like Donald Trump as a candidate. I don't agree with a lot of the things he says, but I think he's just badass, and who could not want that guy as president? So yes, that's my stance, but I'm going to be objective and say, even if you don't like Donald Trump, it doesn't give you a right to just attack him like this. If you look at all the other town halls, okay, like the town hall with Bernie Sanders, the one with Ted Cruz, the one with Hillary Clinton, they are all like a conversation, a very civil discussion, you know, like this. It's just like, what do you think about this? Answer. Another question, answer. And they don't even raise their voices. And then this one, oh my gosh, it was like, I mean, he was just like attacking Donald Trump, interrupting him, and showing a very, very clear bias. And I thought it was so unprofessional, and I really think this guy should be fired. I mean, this was ridiculous. And then for the question about abortion, okay, did Donald Trump technically say women should be punished for having abortions? Yeah, but if you watch the interview, watch it. But just let me play a clip, and you're going to hear how Chris Matthews basically doesn't drop it and corners him until he gets the answer that he wants. He like literally almost next to forced Donald Trump to say this. I mean, you can understand being, you know what? Let's just play the clip. Let's play it. Okay, you'll hear.
Should the woman be punished for having an abortion?
Look.
This is not something you can dodge. If you say abortion is a crime or abortion is murder, you have to deal with it under the law. Should abortion be punished?
Well, people in certain parts of the Republican Party and conservative Republicans would say yes, they should be punished.
How about you?
I would say that it's a very serious problem, and it's a problem that we have to decide on. It's very hard.
But you're for banning it.
Are you going to say, well, wait, are you going to say put them in jail? Is that
well,
the
no, what I'm
punishment
asking you, because you say you want to ban it. What's that mean?
I am pro-life, yes.
What is ban? How do you ban abortion? How do you actually do it?
Well, you know, you'll go back to a position like they had, where people will perhaps go to illegal places.
Yeah.
But you have to ban it.
You ban it and they go to somebody who flunked out of medical school.
Are you Catholic?
Yes, I think
And how do you feel about the Catholic Church's position?
I accept the teaching authority of my church on moral issues.
But do you know their position on abortion?
Yes, I do.
And do you concur with that position?
I concur with their moral position, but legally I get to the question. Here's my problem with it.
No, but let me ask you, but what do you say about
It's not funny.
Your church? Yeah, it's really not a funny thing. What do you say about your church? They're very, very strong.
They're allowed to, but the churches make their moral judgments, but you running for president of the United States will be chief executive of the United States. Do you believe believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
10 cents, 10 years,
I don't know. That I don't know.
Why not?
I don't know.
You take positions and everything else.
I do take positions and everything else. It's a very complicated position.
My first reaction to the whole thing is, why the hell are we debating about abortion in the year 2016? Abortion has been legal for 50 years. It's not gonna change. The law isn't gonna change. I can't remember the last time I heard candidates talking about abortion. I can't remember the last time it was actually an issue that we were still debating. It's so irrelevant. And it has not been brought up in any debate. No one has asked about abortion. This was just so out of left field. You know Rachel Maddow, she's the liberal newswoman on, I think it's MSNBC. She has a show. She's really interesting to listen to. She made a great point, which was that you could see Donald Trump in his face. He was actually creating the stand that he should take. He was actually thinking on his feet and figuring out what the stance should be that he takes in the moment. And that's why Chris Matthews pushed this issue so hard, because he knew that this was one issue. Yeah, it hasn't been brought up the whole election cycle or anything. And he knew Donald Trump probably didn't have a prepared stance already for it. He wasn't prepared, to answer the question. And then she pointed out that you could see in his face, and if you go on YouTube and watch this discussion, it's you type in abortion fiery segment Donald Trump. Just type in that on YouTube and watch his face when he finally makes the stance that he finally says, the answer is yes, there should be some sort of punishment. And then you can see in his face, he's right. He's like thinking on his feet and thinking, what is the stance I should take on this? And then he's like, the answer is yes, it should be some sort of punishment. And it's a really cool moment. Even though I like Donald Trump, I think she's right. I think that he was trying to think, what is the stance I should say right here? Like, I'm gonna pick this one. And then he said it. And so I think that really proves like why Chris Matthews pushed this so hard, why he wouldn't let it drop, right? Because it's not a hot button issue. I mean, I know people care a lot about it, but it's so irrelevant with everything going on right now. Like what? Why don't we just start debating on whether Nixon should get pardoned too? Right? I mean, it's from 1973, straight out of 1973, seriously. This abortion debate. It's been legal since then, and I don't think it's ever going to change, and no president is going to do anything to change it. Like, that's the law. Okay, my next point. Donald Trump was trying to get Chris Matthews to talk about how he is a Catholic, but yet he's a liberal. So he doesn't agree with the Catholic Church's stance on abortion, yet he accepts it and is still a Catholic at the same time. And why can't Donald Trump be president and not agree with the country's laws on abortion, but still accept it and be president at the same time? Hello? That's just common sense. And I think Donald Trump should have said that point, but he was probably trying to get there, but Chris Matthews kept, interrogating him. But yeah, if Chris Matthews can be a Catholic and still disagree with one of their stances and still be a Catholic, why can't Donald Trump be a president and disagree with one of the country's laws and still be president? And that doesn't mean that just because he doesn't agree with abortion, doesn't mean that he's gonna get in there on January 19th or whatever, sit down at the desk, and the first thing he's gonna do is start trying to put legislation to change abortion. Why, just because the president doesn't agree with something, that doesn't mean that he's gonna devote time to changing it. Maybe he's just gonna devote time to other things. The president is a pretty busy guy, isn't he? It was just such a obvious, he was just trying to trip Donald Trump up. And that is not professional. That's not, objective. That's not his job. His job was to interview him and not to try to, interrogate him and corner him and get him to say something that they can use as a soundbite for the next week against him. And that's exactly what they've done. He cornered him for 10 minutes until he finally gave the answer that he was looking for, which was an answer that they could use as a soundbite. And now they have. They used that answer for the whole week. Everybody's been quoting him. And I just think that's not fair. Cornering somebody until they give you an answer and then using that answer against them, that's so messed up. Alright, really had to get that off my chest, you guys. My other point is, when you watch crap like this, that is why politicians like Hillary Clinton are so fancy in everything they say and so prepared, and everything they say is so delicate, and they won't really be real with you, and they're not really leveling with you. That's why, because they have been through this stuff. They know how it is. And if you don't want politicians who are going to speak so fancy at us and throw SAT words and everything is already written and prepared, then this kind of crap shouldn't be allowed. Because I like candidates like Donald Trump, even Bernie Sanders. I like the way he talks. They feel like they're just talking to you rather than talking at you. And if you wonder why a lot of politicians don't do that, it's this interview is the answer right here. What Chris Matthews did to Donald Trump makes politicians, they refuse to they won't even go on this TV show or that TV show, and they refuse to interview with this person or that person, and then everything they say is only if it's already prepared and a pre-written speech. You can kind of understand why that is. Man, if I had to go through this stuff, I would probably just stick to the script and never talk candidly again. So, I mean, I think it's really irresponsible of a journalist to do this kind of stuff, because you're kind of robbing the American people of getting to have politicians that can just be real with us, and when they speak, they're just like speaking candidly and honestly to us, and now we get to see a bunch of fancy pre-written speeches because they know that this crap goes on and they don't want to deal with it, and who the heck would? I mean, this was like borderline bullying, the way that he just... Yeah, oh man, I am sorry. I'm very, like, this was just really hit close to home for me, because this was just, it was so uncomfortable to watch. And whether or not you agree with Donald Trump, I think that this interview had to have been painful for anybody to watch. Okay, my last point about the whole abortion discussion, and then we're going to move on to a really, really juicy question that got asked to him right after that no one's talking about. But my last thing right here, listen to this.
What about the guy that gets her pregnant? Is he responsible under the law for these abortions? Or is he not responsible for an abortion decision?
Right. It hasn't, different feelings, different people.
Yeah.
I would say no.
Yeah, well, they're usually involved. Anyway, much more.
He says, would the guy be responsible in a hypothetical situation where abortion is illegal and there's a punishment? Oh my God. I feel like Dwight Schrute from The Office even using the word punishment. It's just like so like cartoonish. He's asking, would the guy hypothetically be responsible too for getting punished for the abortion taking place? And he is clearly indicating that he thinks that the guy would be responsible. And that is so outrageous, so anti-male. Like, we are not responsible if it's a woman's choice and it's a woman's body, which of course it is. And whether or not you agree with abortion, it would be the woman's choice whether to do it or not. I mean, literally, like, it's literally, if she is gonna do it or not, it's literally speaking her choice. And why on earth would you be able to assume that there must be some situation where the guy pressured or persuaded the woman and therefore he should have some sort of responsibility under the law? Like, are you kidding me? Like, who knows? Maybe the guy pressured her, maybe he didn't, but the woman is still responsible for the decision that she makes unless the guy held a gun to her head. I mean, that is just so anti-male, and thank God Donald Trump answered that question, and he said no. You really, really, really saw his face trip up when he got asked that question. He was like, I would... and he made like this face where he was like, if you can picture my face right now, that's what he did. He's like, like very uncomfortable. But that, oh man, that really, really frustrated me. I mean, you don't have to be a misogynist or against women to agree that the woman should be responsible for the decision that she makes. Come on. Like, what, a woman isn't strong enough or smart enough or capable enough to be responsible? She's like under the influence of whatever a guy tells her to do. Isn't that kind of insulting to women to say that? Like, man, are we really that much of like Jedi Knights, like Obi-Wan Kenobi over here, like using the Force to make a woman do anything? Trust me, guys do not have that much influence on women. Come on. Okay, let's move on to the next question, which really, really, I think no one's paying attention to this question. Like, I'm about to set radio history right here because no one has talked about this yet. I swear, because everybody's been talking about the abortion comments, but what happened right after? Listen.
Right. Go ahead, first question.
Mr. Trump, I'm Dana Strom, and my question for you is, could you provide us a little bit of your position on the right to marry for gays and lesbians, as well as if you'll continue the fight for equality for those individuals?
Well, the courts have decided, so that's really not a subject that's come up, but the courts have decided. I would have preferred states making the decision, but the courts have decided.
Oh, man. He asked about gay rights. Now, Donald Trump so far has had run-ins with, like, every group of people, right? Hispanics, it's been women, minorities, I haven't heard anything yet from the LGBT community and Donald Trump. I haven't heard him say anything about them yet. Like, he's so far, like, sidestepped that whole issue, and it would really, that would probably be the one thing that sticks to him, because that is such a hot button issue right now, unlike abortion. That is an issue actually in the news, actually being talked about every day by lawmakers and whatnot, being argued about on talk radio and CNBC. They're actually talking about that stuff, and I haven't heard Donald Trump say anything about LGBT rights or anything. Can you imagine? He must have somehow, thank God, miraculously, Chris Matthews didn't push that issue. He just let it slide and let them move on to the next question. Can you imagine how, like, worried Donald Trump must have been in that moment, and, like, thank God Chris Matthews let that drop and let him move on, and like, nobody seemed to really notice it. Man, oh man. People keep asking, like, what's going to be the one thing that actually sticks to Donald Trump, right? The one controversy that's finally going to, like, sway the tide for him. And I think that if he were to say something about LGBT rights or the LGBT community, or God forbid, like the whole transgender issue, I think that might be the one thing that could break him as a candidate with the public.
Just a quick furthermore, could you maybe talk about how you might increase equality for people of the transgender community?
I would say that I'm going to go by the laws of the courts, and the courts that really is very much up in flux right now, but I'll go by the laws.
And then, second off, listen to the way he answered that. He was like, pretty much indicating that he doesn't stand for transgender rights and he's not going to do anything to increase the equality. And it was such a trolly question, because I think that guy knew. I think that guy, first off, he was probably gay himself, and then he probably knew that Donald Trump is not going to increase the equality for transgenders. So that's why he said it like that. He's like, what would you do to increase the equality for transgender community? And Donald Trump was like, well, I will obey the laws. Thank you. And then they moved on to the next question. He must have been like, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Moving on, I just want to talk about, for a sec, another thing I've been hearing a lot lately is that Donald Trump is supposedly advocating riots. I know I'm a little late on this. I know it was a couple weeks ago, but you still hear about it, and let me just say something about it. He's been advocating, supposedly, riots if they take the nomination away from him at the contestant convention, you know? If he doesn't get the minimum delegates, but he's the closest, and at the convention they have some coup and take it away from him, give it to somebody else. And they asked him, hypothetically, what do you think would happen if that is the case? And check this out. This was his answer.
Because I think there's a natural healing process. Once the battle is over, once the war is over, I think there really is a natural healing process. And I've gotten along with people all my life. This is actually a little bit unusual. I've gotten along very well with people, and I think it'll happen again. And I believe it will. Now, if it doesn't, it doesn't. I'll go along the same path, which has obviously been an effective path. I think we'll win before getting to the convention, but I can tell you, if we didn't, and if we're 20 votes short, or if we're 100 short, and we're at 1,100 and somebody else is at 500 or 400, because we're way ahead of everybody, I don't think you can say that we don't get it automatically. I think you'd have riots.
Okay, did you hear what he said? He said, I think you'd have riots. That's what's been quoted, and that is the soundbite that everybody's been using since he said that. Like, since the second he said that, they were already, like, on their computers typing up they have been saying that he's been advocating riots. Now, that is not advocating riots. Are you kidding me? He was speculating. The guy was predicting, like, what is going to happen. You know, he was just thinking out loud and imagining, well, if they don't do this, and this is probably what's going to happen. And it probably is. I guarantee if he has, like, 25, 50 short that he's supposed to have, and then somebody else is way behind, And you've already seen Donald Trump's like supporters, and then if they do that, if they just yank the nomination away from him and give it to somebody else because they don't like him, oh man, like all hell would break loose. Like it would probably, we're gonna have like a LA in '92 situation on our hands. And he was just simply stating the reality that that's probably how it's gonna be. Come on, that is not advocating riots. Like, you've got to be kidding me. Now, I'm not totally defending him, like, no matter what, just to show you I'm fair. Like, when he's at his rallies and he's talking about, you know, I wish I could punch that guy in the face, and he said that, and then he said, like, you know, to be honest, it adds to the flavor, talking about, you know, all the fighting and stuff. That is kind of advocating violence. That is advocating riots. Yeah, like, that's not cool, but that was not advocating riots. He was saying, yeah, there probably will be. You know, I think it's really interesting, though, with all of this drama going on and the election season being, like, so juicy, so salacious, and scandalous, right, this season. And people are really, really paying attention. People like me, who would have never probably paid attention to it had there not been all this drama. I swear, if all of this election was the way it is on, like, the other side, like Bernie versus Hillary, like, those debates are boring. And if the whole election had the tone like that, you know, civil, everybody getting along, people respecting each other, I wouldn't be paying attention. I'd be watching entertainment news, you know, Entertainment Tonight, or I'd be watching The Real Housewives of Atlanta. I wouldn't care. I'm talking about it because it is interesting and people are interested. And for those of you who are saying it's appalling how ridiculous and stupid this election season has gotten, at least people are interested, right? At least me, like, perfect example, I'm interested in it. I care. And if this election season ends and Donald Trump ain't the president, if it's Hillary Clinton, I'm probably going to go back to not caring, because it's probably going to go back to being pretty dry and boring. And I think it's really silly. I always just found it personally really silly for people to sit back and complain about what people are interested in. Like, people are interested in things that are interesting, okay? Policy and healthcare reform and, you know, whatever political jargon you want to throw out. It's not by its nature that interesting. It's not, like, by definition, it's kind of dry, and it's not really that scandalous or, you know, intriguing. It's just not, especially to young people. So don't complain that this election season is the way that it is. Just be happy that it's getting people to stop talking about Kim Kardashian for a second, and we're all talking about, you know, who's going to be president and the election and politics. Like, it's been very educational for me as a result of the scandalous nature of it. Like, let's just be grateful. And if this election season ends and Donald Trump isn't the president, it goes back to being boring, and we go back to talking just about celebrity gossip, you know, let's not complain, because people are interested in things that involve some sort of drama, some sort of something at stake, and, you know, that is intellectually stimulating. It's not a coincidence that that's what people want to talk about. That people want to talk about who's dating who or who's having whose baby. Hey, guess what? The reality is those topics are more interesting to people. That's human nature. Come on. What is the point of criticizing it? Thanks for riding with me today on Riding with Dielawn. If you missed any of the show or want to share it with someone, just go to my website, ridingwithdielawn.com. Connect with me on Facebook at Dielawn Comedy and Instagram at Real Dielawn. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. It'll be sure to have you laughing at Dielawn Comedy. And be sure to subscribe to my podcast on iTunes and Stitcher by searching Riding with Dielawn. Riding with Dielawn airs every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. here on News Talk WLOB 1310 and streams on my website, ridingwithdielawn.com. That's RIDIN with DIELAWN. Now stay tuned for the Derek Volk Show starting at 9 a.m.